Welcome to the Your Company Health Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Wright, founder and CEO of the Wright Consult Digital Marketing Agency, and also the creator of the Patient Buzz program. The goal of this podcast is to highlight healthcare professionals, their journey, and how they're making the world a better place. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Your Company Health Podcast. My name is Andre Wright, and today I have a very special guest, Elizabeth Miller, founder of Happy Health Caregiver. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm doing well, Andre. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure for you to be here. I know we have been talking for a while, but finally you're here, and just excited to have this conversation and to talk to you because you have a wide range of experience in the healthcare space. So to get things started, talk to us about your story and how you got into healthcare.
Yeah, so I'd say I'm kind of more in the I call it like the caregiving space versus like the healthcare space. I'm certainly not a nurse or a professional in that space, but the care economy is so huge, and there are 53 million family caregivers in the U.S., and a lot of them are working. So 60% of these are working, and these are just the best stats from what we know from the latest data that is actually pre-pandemic. But I found my personal story is that back in 2014, while I was working in my job, caregiving happened in my life. I could kind of see it coming like a mudslide, frankly. My parents' health had continued to decline, and things started to get really bad in 2014, where my husband was caring for his mom who had lung cancer, and then my parents had this whole cocktail of different things going on with them. Sadly, we both lost a parent that year, and then I became the primary caregiver for my mom, and what was called being squeezed in the sandwich generation. So caring for my kids who were in middle school at the time, caring for my mom who lived nearby in assisted living, but she was grieving my dad and was really dependent on me for a lot of things, trying to process that grief as well for my dad. And then, oh, by the way, I've got this corporate demanding job that, I'm supposed to be in the peak of my career earning years. And my husband was simultaneously squeezed. And so we just felt like we were not even recognizing who we were in the mirror anymore. Our health and happiness had completely, suffered. We were just, constantly kind of like passing each other, like, you got this, and tired, overwhelmed, stressed, and just felt like we were the only people, going through this at that time. And I, kind of went back to my roots of I studied broadcast journalism at Penn State University, but I never really used it in my corporate career. I fell into IT, and then corporate strategy was my last corporate job, managing business transformation projects. But I learned broadcast journalism at Penn State, and so I went back to my roots of kind of writing to help me process what was going on. And that was kind of the initial things 10 years ago for Happy Healthy Caregiver, and then later layered on the podcast. So using those skills I learned in college, spotlighting different caregiver stories and extracting the resources and tips that help them, and learning about that in the process, coaching caregivers. And then really where I found a real love is through professional speaking with companies and organizations to help support the people who looked like me back in the beginning of like the feeling overwhelmed and lost. And so essentially creating what I wish existed for me.
Awesome. And it's always good, when you're working towards your passion and you're doing something that you're passionate about, and you have that story that propelled you in this era. So I wanted to talk to us about some of your services for Happy Health Caregiver.
Yeah, so Happy Healthy Caregiver, it's kind of got two different parts. So what I offer family caregivers, so those caring for their loved one, is, they can follow on social media and get some tips and resources that way. I've got a weekly newsletter they can tap into where every week I share something happy, healthy, and caregiver related. And then I also do an initial complimentary coaching session if they want to tap into that. And of course, there's the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast, which has about 200 episodes. So all of that is mostly, complimentary for family caregivers. I mean, certainly if they want to purchase my journal or other things, they can take into that. But how I make a living then is through working with companies, working with organizations, and then have found myself also to be really in this accidental influencer space in the care space where if companies and products are developing solutions to help this segment of the population, either older adults or different types of caregivers, and looking for a way to market their product or service. And so through the podcast ads, through newsletter ads, and so forth, I can help kind of spotlight some of those things that I could have saw how they would have helped me in my life.
Awesome, awesome. Talk to us about the community outreach that you do apart from the podcast.
Yeah, so apart from the podcast, I'm involved with a couple nonprofits as well. So I'm in the Atlanta area, but I support family caregivers all over. One of the things that we offer are through a nonprofit called daughterhood.org is they have a bunch of different circles of support, either on a certain topic or an ad hoc support group where caregivers can come in. It's geared toward daughters of aging parents, but certainly others can join and benefit from this as well. So I lead one of those a month as a volunteer opportunity. And then here in the Atlanta area, we have programs through a chapter, another nonprofit called Adult Children of Aging Parents, or acapcommunity.org. And in our chapter, my role is to find speakers and experts that can talk about the curriculum topics that we have available. So for example, like this month, we're talking about, when you're older adult, those driving transitions, when they can maybe, driving has gotten to be a lot for them, but they still are craving this independence. How do we deal with that as a care community to keep everybody safe? But it could be dementia topics or other topics related to that. So I love kind of doing these two things to kind of give back in addition to what I'm doing. I'm still a support caregiver. So my folks are deceased. My brother was born with an intellectual disability and is on the autism spectrum. So he requires a different kind of level of support. So with my siblings, we're trying to share the care and kind of figure out how to navigate the complicated, fragmented healthcare system that we have. And really provide the best support for him. So I'm still living it, frankly. Like while I'm helping others, it's helping me at the same time, because I feel like the best information comes from other family caregivers who are living it. And so I lead a support group for those who are caring for adults with special needs, and I am facilitating it, but at the same time, I'm learning about things that can help me for my brother. So
Awesome,
it's a win-win.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that tells a lot about you for you to be doing all this. I know it could be very difficult, as what you mentioned, all the situation with your family and surrounding. But what motivates you? What motivates Elizabeth to get up every morning and say, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
going to keep doing this?
I mean, so my niche too in this space, Andre, is like I really want to help caregivers figure out how to make their lives sustainable. So how do they juggle the work, the life, the caregiving all together? And how do they do that without burning out and having their own health and happiness suffer? So I have to practice what I preach, since I'm essentially a self-care cheerleader or a bully, depending on how you look at it, for caregivers. So I have to pay my own health and happiness as well. And so I, carve out time for myself in the morning as an entrepreneur to really kind of, what do I need today? Sometimes I need to sleep. Sometimes I need to strength train. Sometimes I need to eat a lot of protein. Sometimes I need to get out in the sunshine. So whatever it is, but I think ultimately what motivates me though is I just want our world to be different. Caregivers are delightful people. I have not met one of them that I don't like. And I just feel like they're doing so much good, but at what price? And so how do we minimize the cost of that the caregivers are doing to kind of fill the gap in our healthcare system? Like we're outnumbered, right? And it's only going to get worse, frankly, that, we've got more baby boomers. I think last stat I heard from ARP was 12,000 turning 65 or older every single day.
Mhm.
So that doesn't mean that their disease is synonymous with aging, but that population is way larger and there's not enough people to take care of the people who need the care. And so that gap in our healthcare system is being filled by people like me, people like you, who are just, everyday people that are also trying to pay their bills and raise their families and take care of their homes. And that's what motivates me, is like, how do we make this easier for this population?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's great. You just want to, we all want this world to be better, and
Yeah.
we it can help more, and for people to strive. But I know you're pretty savvy online. You're an influencer. I've seen you all over LinkedIn. Your podcast is doing pretty well, and as you know, I'm in the digital marketing fields. But talk to us about some of the digital marketing strategy you've been using.
Yeah. I think I kind of put things through the lens a little bit of I am the avatar. My sister's the avatar who cared for my parents, like the people that I know. When it comes to marketing, I think specifically to family caregivers, what I like to do and what I like to see is real people that are like me. So, what kind of turns me off is seeing like stock photos where caregivers are all, made up and everything is so happy and joyful. It's like, no, it's not always, we're messy buns. Sometimes I'm all dressed like I'm exhausted and hadn't slept, or stains on the shirt. So, and then I think that was what was important to me about the podcast is spotlighting real people. There are a lot of experts in the healthcare space, but I wanted to talk to the people who are living it and living in the trenches. And so I think that, the caregiver community is a really loyal community. And so if they find something that is going to work for them and help them, then they are going to help elevate that and amplify that out there. And so I think, through story sharing, through real authentic referrals of people using it. And I think, the more we can do also to benefit family caregivers without having them have to pay for the things directly. Because I think that's the other thing that I want people to kind of realize who are marketing to this population, is that they are already paying a lot out of pocket for products and services, and maybe lost wages, from taking time off of work and paying for home care and assisted living and all of those things. So care is expensive. And I think what people don't realize is that Medicare does not pay for long-term care. So, most of it is either Medicaid, you've got to be really financially needy to kind of qualify for those things, or you're wealthy and you can private pay for everything. But there's a whole world of people in that middle population. And so speaking to that and really understanding what those pain points are for them, I think is the relevancy around that they need the resources, that they, are overwhelmed, that they're financially strapped in many cases. And so I think really, really knowing your audience is key.
And that's well said. And you touch on something that's very important: authenticity. That's
Yes.
very important, not only for the healthcare, the caregiving space, but for any aspect of business. We've oftentimes seen, people all over LinkedIn, all over social media. Oh, they're showing this, they're showing that, and it's just not authentic. And what we realize, and statistics show this, that people will engage more with authentic people.
Yes.
So,
And one more thing to add to that, Andre, is like, I get I meet a lot of startups in this space, right? Like and I'm not afraid of it because I'm got an IT background. So I know, the scrappy things sometimes you have to do to kind of get your thing out into the world. But at the same time, like, what is not going to work in the marketing space is to keep saying what your product and service is over and over again. Like, hey, this is what we're selling, this is what we're offering, this is like, what is the value? What is the, providing the value of that? Yes, you can, and I try to be conscious of that. I sell things, right? I sell speaking, I sell books and so forth. But what I hope people get from when they follow my accounts is that they're getting value value, and they're getting tips, and they're getting real practical, pragmatic things that they could potentially apply in their life or tell their friend about. And then, every so often they're like, oh yeah, I forgot she sells books or she's a speaker and she's really helped me. We should probably use her, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and you're completely right. It's all about solution. It's all about solving pain, right? It's not about just talking about your features and what your company can do, and how can, if a someone who needs caregiving is on LinkedIn or on social media and they're looking, what are you saying that can help me? What your
Hmm.
company is about that can help me. So we always have to put ourselves in our potential audience, shoes. What would they like to see? Because I mean, I know you should get bunch of emails selling things every day. My LinkedIn inbox is filled up. People will be like, they not even introduce themselves. They're like, I sell this. I do.
Yeah,
This is what I do. That's one of the worst way.
it's a turn off.
It is a turnoff. It is a turnoff. There's nothing, there's no warm up, there's no, how is your day going and have that conversation.
Well, because and that's smart, right, Andre? Because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the more conversations you have with people, like, oh, they like to do XYZ, they have kids, they are pet people, they love to travel, and then you can tailor what you're offering to meet in those different needs and those pain points, and that's giving you more information that's going to better tailor your pitch, your subtle pitch or whatever. It's really a relationship though, and I can feel 100% good about like every follower, every whatever, like has chosen, like, not paid for, not, no shortcuts. Like it's been a grind, right? Like when you're in a business for yourself, like people only see kind of the little top of the glacier, but there's a lot of hard work and grit that kind of goes beneath the surface to kind of get to those points.
Right. And when you build an authentic audience, they will stay. They will stay.
Yeah.
You naturally build that relationship and they're gonna be around to see, what's you're all about, and then eventually purchase your product. But Elizabeth, I mean, time is just flying, and you're so full of ideas, and the conversation is going well. But let's move on to my next question is, talk to us about some of the, like, one or two good business ideas you've received through your journey in the caregiving space. You know?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and I can really credit my IT career for this, is like, as an IT professional building products and solutions and things, we were constantly testing and learning and testing and learning. And so for me, I think one of the things that has helped me over these past 10 years is that, I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall to see what has stuck, and not being afraid. Don't let, perfect be the enemy of the good. You can iterate on things and you can expand on things. And so I think just kind of getting it out there and then refining it over time and pivoting when it's not working. There was a time in my business where I was much more geared towards B2C versus B2B as far as how do I make a living. And I could see that was not going to work for me. And that wasn't going to, it didn't feel great for me. Like I wanted someone to pay for the support on the caregiver's behalf. So that was a big pivot. It was, it really had me restructuring things. And so I think sometimes we've got these ideas of great solutions and things that we think people should want, but I think a lot of it needs to be validated, first of all. Like, don't go spending a bunch of money and go down this path if you haven't even really validated that this is even a pain point for people. It's like good intentions. I know, when I first started a website and I had an ebook out there, I was like, oh, people need this. This is going to be great. They're going to want this. But, I just didn't have the social following then. I didn't have all of the things that kind of go into it. And so I think, we can kind of minimize how important some of that is. Like you can have the best product and service in the world, but if you don't have kind of the backing and the marketing and the reach behind it, it's hard. You're either going to have to grit and grind to get there, or you're going to have to pay money to kind of advertise. And I didn't have the money to spend on that. So it's I think though the important thing there is to validate, be ready to pivot, and iterate, test and learn.
I mean, and those are great points in terms of, putting the right structure in your business so that you
Mhm.
can scale. Because as you mentioned, I mean, you can do the wrong things first,
Oh,
Uh,
there's plenty of wrong. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
that goes for, any business. You have to have the right structure in place and also the right audience. We have assessed website and we've done a lot of audits and, realized that, doctors, they're just targeting the wrong things.
Language, it matters.
Exactly, exactly. The
Yes.
content, their setup is geared to a service that they're not making any money from. They're not zooming in on their profitable, services. So these are all things as business owners, we have to zoom in and ensure that these structures are in place. To scale. So tell us. So how do you see? I know you mentioned initially that the caregiving space is booming. It's blowing up. So what are some of the the changes that apart from that growth, the changes that you're seeing maybe the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I mean, I think, what always mystifies me a little bit is that there are so many people that are caring for loved ones, but they don't necessarily self-identify as a family caregiver. So I don't know if it's changing, but if I could wave a magic wand and have it change, I would love for the healthcare providers to kind of initiate this fast tracking of these family caregivers to support. I know I wish that, I feel like when patients get a diagnosis, caregivers also get a diagnosis. Like their whole world is kind of uprooted as far as what the day to day life looks like. And we focus so much on the patients and how we can help them and make, support them. But there's this other person that's really, or team of people really that are attached to this patient that can be burning out because they're doing all of the things. And so I would love for them to kind of hand, hey, this is a big role for you as the primary caregiver for this person. Here are some resources of support and things that can happen. I do see some places, particularly in corporate America, and faith communities as well, other maybe organizations, associations, and stuff like that are starting to get it that people are burning out, that are have best intentions of caring for other people. And let's take the company example first of all. Is like they're creating things like employee resource groups where they can create community within these organizations, or maybe even segments of their a large faith community population, and meeting people where they are so they can help them with their pain points. And so ERGs is a great place where I have been able to kind of tap in and offer my services and resources to those companies so that they can then support their workforce, which is going to make happier and healthier employees that are going to stick around. They're going to recommend people come work for that company because they're going to feel validated and they're going to feel that they can be productive because the resources have been fast tracked to them.
Awesome, awesome. Well said. And Elizabeth, I know we you talk a little bit about your company earlier, but we never touch on in your target audience is because I know some caregivers, they're focused on just people in a subset here or a subset there. So
Yeah.
do you target like everyone, or every?
Well, I mean, my personal thing is I probably attract a lot of sandwich generation caregivers because that's what I wrote and spoke about for many years, is that squeeze when raising kids and helping aging parents at the same time. Now I've kind of pivoted. I'm talking more as a sibling caregiver who's supporting
Mhm,
my brother.
mhm.
But honestly, like a lot of what I offer, because everything I offer is really about helping that caregiver, that family caregiver be happier and healthier and find that sustainability in their life. So no matter what kind of caregiver you are, I think you're going to find value in the resources that I offer. I do try to curate some of the content that I have. So, when you come to my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com, you're hopefully either going to be like, you're a new caregiver. It's going to be clear. Start here. Let me get you on your way. You're someone who's looking for community. You're a male caregiver. You're a dementia caregiver, a young caregiver. Like, okay, now I've got some resources curated for you. Find your like minded community that you can identify with and those resources in there. Or you're completely burned out and you're trying to figure out how to, reclaim your own health and happiness. Okay, let me help you with a certain kind of self-care. Are you looking to be, do you need more socialization? Do you need financial self-care? Do you need intellectual with more resources? And so I can kind of gear them towards that way. So those are kind of the paths that I have when people come to the website, is like, you're new, you're trying to find community, or you need help with a particular type of self-care.
Awesome, awesome. And just to follow up on that, so say I come to the website and I'm pretty new. So talk to us about your process. What's next? Do you how do you carry that person to?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I mean, they're going to go to kind of the main resource page, where they're going to kind of tap into some of the general resources that are available to them. I recommend getting on the email lists of the places that seem like they're the right fit for them, and following the folks on social media. But I also offer that complimentary coaching session, because I don't want people to have to like spin their wheels and figure out how to navigate this by themselves. I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but we're all kind of on this spectrum, and I might be here and someone else might be back here, and I can help you kind of lift and get a little bit closer. And so through a complimentary coaching session, I can validate and talk through what they've been going through, and say, oh, maybe this or maybe that, or if I were you, maybe I tried this or that. And that alone can really be what people need in that moment.
Well said. And I know our listeners and viewers will definitely go check out your website. How can we connect with you? Talk to us about your website.
So happyhealthycaregiver.com is the place, kind of the website. You'll see social links there on the bottom. Hopefully, you'll get a pop-up to say you're invited to join the email list. You can check out the podcast. So that's where I would recommend you start, happyhealthycaregiver.com.
Okay, happyhealthycaregiver.com. So
yes,
definitely a lot of resources, it's actually there. And again, Elizabeth, this has been great, great information, and I can see the passion for caregiving, and I know
not something you can fake, right? Like
can't.
You can't fake it.
You're authentic, and you can see it in you.
Yes.
And know you're going places. Your podcast is awesome.
Thank you.
You're really a great influencer. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing that great knowledge about the caregiving space. And we'll definitely keep in touch.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much, Andre.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found this information useful. Please share this episode on social media, and also visit our website at andreewright.com/podcast for more. And also leave us a review on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, see you then.